focus still on my book, The Journey to Biblical Masculinity. If you're interested in getting it, you can get it at the website, get it on Amazon, whatever you guys want to do. We are on chapter 3. We are now doing Embracing Where You Came From. And the thing that I want to focus on tonight is I want to focus on a father wound, because we're going to do another chapter. Another chapter focuses on the mother wound, but we're going to talk about a father wound. And if we're going to talk about a father wound, we have to know the difference between what a father and a mother provide, okay? And again, we will repeat some of this in a later chapter in a different way. But a father ultimately provides. He is ultimately a provider. He is a protector. ER or OR, Brandon? Come on, help me out. Well, it's a no now. Protector and a preparer. Preparer. Is that too far over? Can you guys all see that? Okay, good. You can all see that. All right, provider, protector, prepare. Now, a woman, what she provides, a mother, she is a nurturer. She is providing wisdom. And she is a protector. Now, some of you are saying protector on both? Yes. A man is a protector of the wife, and a wife is the protector of the children. Okay? Most people don't know that. This is a very big aha moment for most men. They don't recognize that their job is not first and foremost to protect the children. It is to protect the wife so that the wife can be a protector of the children. It is why it is so important for a man in the home to play and participate in these roles. Now, listen to me. I'm not going to get into this whole conversation that I end up in, that a man needs to be a provider in the home. Listen, I understand seasons, I understand sickness, I understand that certain seasons require certain things, and sometimes the wife does certain things in the area of finances and becomes a provider in some certain ways. I understand all of that. I'm not looking for a conversation about it. Here is the point. A man, if he is not attempting consistently to be the provider of the home, he will eventually lose respect in the home, lose desire in the home, and he will move away from the home. It does not mean that he is the one who's making the most money all the time. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about intention. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does this make sense? I just end up in these round conversations with way too many people. They're like, well, but my husband, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is, do you have the desire and the intent to do this and become this? Here's the reason. Because a father, at the end of the day, a mother will say it this, a mother will show you that you are loved. That's the way I wrote it. You are loved. That you are beautiful. And I use the word beautiful intentionally because every single man in these gatherings wants to know, every man on planet Earth wants to know that he is attractive, because attractive means desired. And a man wants two things. Bottom line it, a man wants two things: respect and to be desired. Wow, that was, dude, sick. I don't know how I did that, but that was amazing. Way to go, me. Okay, a man wants to be respected and desired. Here's the thing. If I don't get respect and desired, I'll settle for feared. If I'm not respected and desired, I'll settle for sexual. What I need is sex from my wife. No, you don't need sex from your wife. What you need is to be desired from your wife. Desire from your wife will satisfy 1,000,000-fold an orgasm. An orgasm will last this long. Desire will have a lifetime effect on a man's soul. Respect and desired. Now here's the point, okay? So that's my point with saying a man wants to know that he's beautiful and you are loved. And a young boy needs to know that he's beautiful to his mother. A young boy needs to know that he is loved. But here's what a dad provides. You are capable, and you are powerful. So where a mom says you are loved, a dad says you are capable. Where a mom says you are beautiful, a father says you are powerful. Now can you start to see how a father wound starts to show up? See, now we're walking down the road a little bit. Because most of the world doesn't have these definitions of mother and father. And when we can't define what a mother and father is, because we won't even define what a man and a woman is, and we're going, no, the culture's doing that. No, I'm telling you, it began in religious systems that didn't know how a woman was different from a man and how the roles were different and the responsibilities were different inside of the institution called marriage. And when we don't understand what the roles are responsible for inside of a marriage, it trickles down into culture, and then culture doesn't know how to define a man or a woman because we didn't tell them what a man and a woman is responsible for. And when we can't tell them what their responsibilities are, which you've heard me say this a ton of times, I said it just a few weeks ago when we started this, that the first word over your life was your gender. The first word over your life was your gender, and we want to throw it off because that gender comes with very specific responsibilities that nobody wants to have. Because nobody wants to serve, they only want to show up and get and gain and take. So a father is the provider, the protector, and the preparer. He says, you are capable, you are powerful. A mother says, a mother is a nurturer. She's the voice of wisdom, and she is a protector. And she tells you, you are loved and you are beautiful. In the book, I talk about like a mom is usually the one that when a kid goes down and burns down the house, and the house is burning down, and the dad comes up and goes, what the hell happened? The mom is like, oh my gosh, he was so cute. He was trying to build a campfire in the living room. I couldn't stop him. It was just so adorable. A mom reminds you of your goodness even when you don't show it. If some of you are thinking I didn't experience that, we're not talking about a mother wound this week. We're talking about a father wound, and we will get there. Okay, so some of you are like, well, that sucks. How do I deal with that? Don't worry, it's a later chapter. But for this chapter, if you're walking through your life feeling like you can never do enough and that you are not enough and that you never know what the hell you're doing and you always feel like you can't keep up, that is a father wound. Now, a father wound does not mean that your dad had to be abusive or abandoned you or ambivalent, okay? That can come with tons of gray, tons of variations. Here's the thing that I will tell you, because modern psychology in some ways will tell you you've got to blame one or the other in order to get some effect and to then begin to do some growth. That's not what the work we do. Anybody who's been a part of the fight for more than 5 seconds, you know that the goal is not to make bad guys and good guys. There's no somebody who's right, there's no somebody who's wrong. Here's what I want you to understand, that before your father wounded you, he was wounded himself from his own generational line. And that wound was passed down to you in ways that he may not have wanted, and you didn't know he was giving you until you tried to be a man yourself. The hard part is we want to go, no, dad was bad. No, dad wasn't bad. He was broken. And somebody broke him. And when he was broken and had you as a child, he passed that wound down to you. And if you don't do something about it, guess what? You're going to pass it down to your children too. Because anything that's not transformed will be transferred. Anything that's not redeemed will be repeated, and you will pass it down. If you are not willing to be honest about the wounds you received from your father, you will then give them to your children. I watched this in a room the other day, guys. I think I've mentioned this story already, but a couple weeks ago, but I was dealing with a group of about 30 businessmen, and I did some of this work with them. Tell me what you want to change in your life. Okay, what's stopping you? When did you first experience that in your life? Walk them through the whole thing, all of 5 minutes. And this dude is sitting next to his son, who is 16 years old. This guy is sitting next to his 16-year-old son. And he goes, this is what I'm experiencing. I was never good enough for my father. So I just wanted to tell my kids that they were amazing all the time. So I told them they were amazing all the time. But I still feel like a piece of shit. Guess what? I looked at the kid and I said, how do you feel about yourself? And he goes, I feel like a piece of shit. Because he wouldn't deal with it in his own soul, he tried to cover it up with language. But we can only pass on who we are, not what we say. Does that make sense? Some of you are shifting in your seats, and so that feels awful. I'm super sorry that feels awful. But if we're not willing, do you understand? This is why we're doing the fight. We're doing the fight because we need to do the practical application of the work to begin to recognize that which in our lives has wounded us, so we can recognize it and be honest with it. There's a major difference between you living in delusion, you living in fantasy, going, son, you're amazing, son, you're wonderful, son, you're awesome, but you feel like a piece of crap. Guess what they will begin to believe just by nature of the environment you're creating? That they aren't worth anything either, because you haven't done the work to go, hey, son, this is the work right here, by the way. Son, my father made me feel like a piece of crap all the time. And in some ways, I'm going to do that to you. Can you do me a favor, and I'll do you a solid as well. When I make you feel less than, will you tell me? I want to know as your dad, because my dad did that to me, and because I lived a whole life of that, I may not even know I'm doing it, but I want to know. Will you tell me? Will you help me as I help you? Because here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to remind you how amazing you are on a consistent basis. And when I don't, I want to know it from you. I want to know it from you. And guess what? When they're teenagers, they'll use that against you, and it'll be awesome, okay? Because it'll be the best gift you've ever been given. My kids, every time, they're like, well, where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm like, yeah, they're being a little disrespectful, but they're not wrong. So I can blow it off, or I can confront it, and I can go, you're right. That actually is true. Let's talk about it. Let's engage with it. Why? Because I'm broken too. And if I'm not going to admit it to my kids, then they're starting off having to redeem what I wouldn't even tell them that they weren't responsible for. Did you hear that? That is really, really important. If I do not do the work, I will make my kids redeem that which they were not responsible for. It is not their responsibility to figure out their dad's problems. That's not the point of this work. The point of this work is I own my stuff in my house, even if nobody else does. Oh, there you go. Let me make it real clear. Let me make it biblical. Is this for those of you that just want a Bible verse because it doesn't feel official until you have one? Because you heard me lead worship somewhere. So now it's official. Let me just give you a verse. Malachi, chapter 4. How does that verse start? Does anybody remember? When the hearts of the children turn to the fathers, is that how that verse goes? Does anybody know? Who has to go first in that verse? Who goes first in this verse? If you've never read this verse, it's Malachi 4:6, and I want you to look it up. Even if you don't even like the Bible, I'm cool with that. Just look up Malachi 4:6. It says, the hearts of the fathers, here's the word, turn. That's the word, turn. The hearts of the fathers have to turn first if you want the hearts of the sons to then turn back towards you. If you're making demands of your children and your wife to go first, that is why your relationships are fracturing. Can I just let you know that? If you're demanding that everyone else goes first, that right there is why it's fracturing. Because I will say it until the day I die, and until somebody gets it, nothing will change. Men, go first. That's the rule. And they go first in service and sacrifice. That is what a man does. And until a man does that, the lineage will keep dropping down the same wounds over and over and over again. Here, let me ask you this way. Let me ask you a different question. If you knew that taking the hits that you're taking today in your marriage and in your family, if you knew taking those hits as hard as they are, but you stay committed, that it was going to break a generational line, a generational brokenness that's in your family, if you knew that all those hits were going to save your great-great-grandchildren from an experience of being responsible for something that you weren't willing to do the work of redeeming, would you do it? You have to answer that question at some point, guys. At some point, we just have to go, yeah, it sucks, but I'm not doing it for me. Yeah, it hurts, but I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for a generation I might not ever see. And then is it worth it? Hey, let me give it real tangibly, and then I'm going to share one more thing, and then we'll do some questions. Listen to this. If you today, let's just say, and I'm going to give you a tool. Let me give you a real practical tool, okay? Let me add this to the men. I'm going to add one more line to this. Your experience cannot be your excuse. Your experience cannot be your excuse. Otherwise, you become a victim, and you are not a victim. Victim is an identity. Victimization is a circumstance. You may have been victimized. That's real, but you are not a victim. That is solidifying your victimization into a position of identity, and you're giving it in authority and empowering that thing to define the rest of your life, which it does not have to do. Because your experience cannot become your excuse not to change, because men go first. Now, let me give you a real practical, okay? If you're inside of our courses, this is the course I want you to go to, okay, this week. I want you to go to the initiation course, lesson 3, video 3. It's called the Genogram. Okay? The Genogram is the tool I want you to focus on this week. That's why I focused on a poem during our mornings for the daily drive, because the tool I really want you to build out is the Genogram. How many of you have done the Genogram before? Anybody, have you done it? Great. What I want you to go back is just fill one in. If you've already explored it, awesome. Try to find what things you may see coming down your line. Try to begin to explore that. I give you some homework in that video. So please go to that video, lesson 3, video 3, the Genogram. And essentially it is a family tree, but the family tree is designed in a way to mark your brokenness so that you can begin to see the things you're fighting are 3 generations long, not just you had a bad day or don't know how to do marriage. Don't know how to run a business, don't know how to take care of your stuff and be responsible. No, that's probably not accurate. What's accurate is you've been handed a ton of stuff you don't even know is there, and it's time to give it proper attention so that you can begin to see the transformation you're longing for. Because until you know what you're dealing with, you don't know what weapons you need to fight it. So once you're able to identify it, you can start building an armory of weapons to defeat that thing when it shows up in your life. Otherwise, you're just boxing shadows. And it's no wonder you're so tired. No wonder you want to give up. Because you're swinging at shadows and nothing's changing, but you're working really hard. But you're just wearing yourself out. What we want to do is give you the proper tools to identify the father wound. That wound of knowing that you are, that wound that told you you're not capable and you're not powerful and you're not chosen. Because that's really what the father wound is. The father wound says, I am not chosen. A mother is the first love that's unconditional in your life. A father is the first one that tells you, I choose you. I choose you. I see you and I choose you. That's why I was telling you even earlier. Why I'm like, let's hold your grief. Because most men never experience that in their lives. Where it's like, hey, we choose to see you. It's a small way of saying we choose you and we receive you as you are. Not when you're better, not when everything's worked out, but right now in the midst of it. Okay, with that in mind, I want the Genogram this week, as well as daily drives. Let's do a few questions before we close out. So whoever has a question, put your hand up. We're just gonna take a couple of them because we're gonna go a little over, but I just wanna make sure that we get any questions that we need right here. Let's do the blessing and then we'll get out of here. Sorry, we went 11 minutes over. So let me do the blessing and we'll get us out of here and we will jump into the community. So make sure that you guys go into the community, share some of the stuff that you're experiencing, share some of the stuff that you're processing, especially with the daily drives this week. I really want to hear from you guys in there because we'll have a really great discussion about this poem. It's one of my favorites and it's also devastatingly awful at the same time. So please jump into that conversation, but let's do the blessing. We're just going to do it from declaration. So I just want you to repeat this after me. If you have not done this, it's just our declaration that we do every single time. And in fact, with saying that, some of you guys are new. So let me just say it from the top and then we'll declare it. It says, you are the evidence of the strength of your ancestors. There are many things within your lineage that attempted to obliterate all forms of goodness, but you are the living proof that it did not work. So now let's declare that together. I am the evidence of the strength of my ancestors. There are many things within my lineage that attempted to obliterate all forms of goodness, but I am the living proof that it did not work. Amen. I'll see you guys in the community. Thank you guys so much for showing up and doing the work. I'll see you guys later.